We're going to stick with this problem of quality control among some cannabis producers. So CannTrust is cutting its head count, trying to win back its licenses. Our guest has experience in helping a pot firm get its license back, and he would be willing to help CannTrust. He can offer some suggestions. We're joined by George Robinson, interim CEO of Bonify, also CEO of RavenQuest Biomed. Oh, great to see you, George. And of course, you came in to help Bonify after its pot was found to have been contaminated or mixed with illegal supply. But Bonify has now won back its license?
Yeah, it was a very milestone landmark event that occurred. Going through the full process and creating a path with Health Canada that got us to the point now where there's a fully reinstated sales license. So Bonify can do everything that anyone else with a full sales license could do. So a landmark day for the Canadian cannabis space.
What is your, I know you're not an insider at CannTrust, but what's your reading of the situation there? Will they be able to win back their license, do you think?
Well, I think they got a long ways to go yet. If we know the path that we took with Health Canada, RavenQuest guided Bonify through, where we see them right now and what they're supplying, there's still a long, long road in front of them. So I wish them all the luck, but the road is for them is still rather complex, and there's still a lot to do, and there's still more things that I haven't seen them list or talk about publicly that they're still going to have to do. But let's hope they can get over the finish line. But there's still a long, long, long path there.
Can you give us any details on what happened at Bonify, how illicit supply got mixed in?
Well, we know that we know that it was ordered and it was brought into the facility, then quickly processed and went out. Through our investigation, RavenQuest investigation, we sorted that out. But we knew that right away that we also had to take a look at how did the culture of the business get there, and how could we realign the culture back to compliancy and regulatory approval. So it went into the business. The illicit product or non-compliant product came into the business, was packaged and shipped out, and all of that time there was non-compliance against batch records and other things that we found in our investigation. So these are the types of things you got to realize, okay, how far and how deep did the problems occur, and how are you going to correct them, and how are you going to make sure that there's processes in place, standard operating procedures, compliance requirements, quality control that's going to sign off that senior management can influence the decisions of the frontline workers.
Of course, we know that there's been questions raised about what management knew at CannTrust. George, we always enjoy getting your overview of the industry. Is there an awful lot of surplus pot out there that it's going to have to be discounted to find a home?
It seems like that way. It's going to have to do it. I think companies like RavenQuest, ours, and our innovation and technology that we use, I think high quality indoor cannabis is always going to find a nice home. I'm not sure about all the product that's being produced right now is going to find a home. But as I've said in the past, we're still years away from meeting even the supply requirements for the Canadian sector once we kind of get into the black market space and take market share from them. But good quality cannabis is always going to be needed, and RavenQuest can deliver that to the market.
But there is a risk, you think, that pot will have to be written down because it gets stale, doesn't it? Or even sold at bargain basement prices.
I think there's going to be two things that are going to happen there. Yeah, there's going to be some that may have to be written off that's there, but I think a lot of people are going to put it through extraction processes. But I'm really concerned now that if you're going to put all that material that you've grown inside a greenhouse or indoor growing, and you're going to put all the costs and get an isolate or a distillate out, that's cost that's coming into it. And then you can really compete on the market space for shelf space on that. And can you make enough money on that product when you do that? So there'll still be a lot of concerns out there. Lots of products sitting in storage units, but we haven't seen it moving into the market yet. I still think there's a lot of cost to go into that product.
And remind me, I think we heard a while back, and I know consumer preferences are only emerging now, but I think we heard that high-potency, big 1-gram joints are emerging as a consumer favorite. Is that in line with what you've heard?
We're starting to see a lot of data coming out of the provinces and out of the retail places, retail shops. It looks like pre-rolls is the way to go for sure. And high THC product isn't always going to be in demand. But you have to remember, when you're going to grow high THC cannabis, a lot of times, not all the times, there's a lot of disease resistance issues in that plant material. So let's just wait and see. The demand is there for the product, but we're not just really seeing the plant material make it through the cultivation phases. Remembering that when you're going to take one component of the plant material and get it expressed really high, there's other parts of the plant's DNA structure that has to change to allow that to occur. So disease resistance is a large issue on some of the cultivars that are high THC expression.
Well, that's interesting. It's like hybridizing dogs and getting to poor dogs that can't breathe properly. I mean, when you push the genome far enough, you start getting pushback, I suppose. That's really interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're exactly right. The constituents of the plant material will stay the same in balance, but if you're going to push one higher, something else has to give up. And you're exactly right on your analogy. You've got to be very careful when you do that. So those people who can grow really high quality indoor growth, and especially now high demand THC, are probably going to win out the shelf space at the retail level.
George, we're very tight for space. Do you think an awful lot of homegrown pot will successfully be produced by Canadians in their backyards, or are they going to be disappointed?
Just very quickly, I'll answer it this way. I mean, I had a bread maker and I used it for about 3 months and I put it away. I think the same thing will happen in the cannabis space. People are going to be passionate about it. Some people will be very successful. I do make my own wine and I love it and I can do it, but I think it'll be the likes of the dodo bird, the bread maker.
Oh, okay, that's a good analogy. George, if CannTrust phoned you, would you go work there?
You know what, I'm interested in taking a call. I think we have the path and we could help them out get through that path much quicker than trying to do it on their own. We've already successfully done that. I think we've won some trust at Health Canada. I know we run the trust at Bonify, and I think we could help them out. I'd be interested to take the call.
Thanks very much. And of course, you're a long-term industry consultant as well. George, it's always great talking to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Andrew.
George Robinson.